here's the part that I think people don't get yet. Why is the Democratic Party playing ball? All right. It would seem that the Democratic Party ought to be attempting to establish some sort of reason and to calm the situation, when in fact what it's doing is signing on to this very dangerous set of beliefs.
So before you go on, why does it seem that the Democratic Party should be trying to calm the situation?
Why would you? Well, if you thought the Democratic,
you just asserted that.
Yeah.
And some people in our audience will say, yeah, like they should be, obviously. And some people will say, well, of course they've never done it. Why would they? So why does it seem that they should be doing something that they're not, before we get on to why they're doing the thing that they are?
Well, it seems that they should be, because a large part of their natural constituency are white people who aren't actually guilty of racism and therefore need a defense. And even if the Democratic Party was being cynical, you would think they would defend a large number of people in need of a defense and, be trying to hold their coalition together, which involves lots of people of color and lots of white people, and just trying not to let that thing fray. But here's what people don't get. First of all, as I've said elsewhere, these two parties are deeply corrupt. They are both involved in intense influence peddling. So policy does not mirror the needs of the population almost ever anymore. In general, it is serving some other interest, and it is dressed up to look like it is for the people, and therefore the people begin to detect that they are frozen out of well-being. They get angry, they spill into the streets. Now here's the problem. The elites, the economic elites who are represented by these two parties, do not wish to share the well-being and opportunity that they are hoarding, right? They have hoarded these things. That was the purpose of their investing in these corrupt entities, and they don't want to share. So what can they do? Well,
the corrupt entities that you're referring to, that the two parties have been invested. Well, no, the parties have invested in the corrupt entities. I thought you said.
Nope.
Who's been
the parties?
I didn't track
the parties
that
have a racket. The racket is to gain power by appealing to voters enough to get elected, and then to peddle the influence that they win at the ballot box to their actual constituents, which are powerful elites that keep the entities afloat. So they don't want to share power. They now have something that looks a lot like the French Revolution in the streets, and although various people at the New York Times may think that's cool, those of us who know anything about the French Revolution know how dangerous this is. So what are they going to do? Well, they're not going to share what they've hoarded, and the street isn't in a mindset to wait any longer, right? It's boiled over. Enough is enough. So what's happened is the blue corrupt entity has decided...
Not the police, the Democrats.
Yes, the Democratic Party, sorry, blue versus red. The blue corrupt entity has come up with a plan, which is they are going to divert the resentment that naturally should go to them for hoarding the opportunity in the first place. They are going to redirect that resentment at people who superficially can be demonized. If you imagine that racism is in every white head and there's nothing that can be done about it, and it pervades the thoughts of white people and is therefore in every interaction and every decision and all of those things, then you might say, yeah, it is. That's the reason that we're not succeeding, is that those people are always having racist thoughts that they never voice, but nonetheless, it's the reason that we can't get anywhere, rather than somebody took all of the opportunity, and frankly, the whole population of normal people is suffering from the reduction in available opportunity. But by redirecting the anger of people who can identify that they're actually on the list of people who's going to get something, right? The elites can stave off the French Revolution coming for them. In other words, they're going to redirect the French Revolution at somebody else, somebody who can't defend themselves, and that's white people of regular means. So that thing is yet one more ploy to prevent the actual reckoning that comes from hoarding all of the opportunity. But what it means, in this case, the two-step plan to take the White House, we've got...
not your plan,
no,
their plan.
Their plan. Mm-hmm. Their plan is going to involve this old codger that they have set up for nomination,
decrepit clown Biden.
The decrepit clown, Joe Biden, is, of course, going to nominate Kamala Harris as VP because, of course, it's that moment when certain demographic parameters have to be met. Kamala Harris is like the living, breathing DNC. That's what she is. And then
DNC being the Democratic National Committee.
Democratic National Committee, which is different than the party. Many of us are still members of the party, but anybody with half a brain has no tolerance for what the DNC has done to the party. But Kamala Harris ends up on the ticket. Maybe Joe Biden wins because people are so fed up with Trump, which they are. And then Joe Biden steps down at some point, right? Kamala Harris then would be president by virtue of having been brought on the ticket for largely symbolic reasons. It's not like people are wildly in favor of her. And then there it is. Then the intersectional madness has made a deal with somebody who would inhabit the role of the president. Now, of course, there is another way this could all go down, which is that the white folks who understand that they have been targeted in a way that would traditionally have been pointed at Jews, maybe, but in this case, it's going to be white folks writ large. They may decide not to let this happen. And my biggest fear, as I've been saying, I went back and found a video on my channel that I'd put out in 2019 saying, look, they're going to conjure exactly the white supremacist demon that they claim to be fighting right now by backing white people against the wall and getting them to identify as some sort of natural entity.
At the very least, it's going to push more such people into voting for Trump in November. And that demographic shift will be observed in the voting polls, presumably, and that will be trotted out as evidence that the only reason to vote for Trump in the first place was because you were a racist all along. So it is this: they are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, without any reference to whether or not there was truth there to begin with.
Yeah, and it's clear to me that what needs to happen is voices of reason who get the nuance here. It's not that the resentment isn't real, and it's not that the gripe isn't well-founded. It is well-founded, but it is not well articulated, and the proposals that are being suggested are insane. I mean, it's hard to give them more credit than that. They're just literally insane proposals that nobody who had ever run anything of any size could possibly imagine were going to make things better, right? Society evaporating is going to be a disaster for all of us. So somebody needs to step in and speak to the movement about what it is that has them angry and what actual remedies might look like, which does involve taking a good look at the elites who have hoarded the opportunity and figuring out what to do to pry it loose from them.